Hey buddy, it's Mike here. Today we're talking about the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. And in terms of storytelling and just overall stealth gameplay, there's no other games like it. Most other games with their story won't even go close to all the political stuff that these games get involved with. But it really gets interesting, especially Metal Gear Solid 2. These are actually one of my favorite games of all time, just in terms of the storytelling, the stealth gameplay. There's really nothing else like it. So first thing I have to get out of the way when I'm talking about this is that it's not really a remake. It's actually a re-release of the HD collection that came out in November 2011. And it's literally, they didn't really do much to update it. It's literally the exact HD versions that you would play on PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360. So now it's time to address the elephant in the room, and that's the frame rate cap. So on all consoles and on PC, the frame rate cap is at 30 FPS. And this is for Metal Gear Solid 1, mind you. This is a game that came out in 1998, so that's really unacceptable. You can get an emulator online for free, and you can easily get this game running on 60 FPS and make it actually look more visually appealing while you're at it. It really surprises me that Konami would release a game that's over 20 years old, and an emulator you get for free would actually perform better than the product they released. And this is not a cheap game. In Canadian, this is $79.99 across the board. So, and that's without tax. So you're paying close to $100 for this master collection. That being said, it's not all bad. The games themselves are just masterpieces. And for those who's never played a Metal Gear Solid game, I think this is a great opportunity for new people to check out the series. But that being said, I'm really confused why Konami didn't put any effort into the actual games. Now, if you're playing on like a PS5 or PlayStation 4 or Xbox Series X or on Steam, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 do run at 60 FPS. So thank goodness for that, right? That being said, it's not all doom and gloom. They've actually have this thing called the Master Books, right? So each game has a book outlining all the characters, explaining the storyline, because the storyline in this game is very confusing, and you'll have to do multiple playthroughs to actually get a true understanding of the storyline. It's very deep, right? I was playing this back in 1999, and I was a little kid, so I didn't really understand the storyline back then. But as you grow older and you learn to appreciate the storyline more. So I really like that addition there, those master books. It's really fun, and these books will explain various concepts in the storyline. Like, for example, how Venom Snake actually is Snake from Metal Gear Solid 3. And there's all sorts of plot twists and turns, and these books really wrap it all together in a nice, clean format. Another cool thing is, while you're reading through these books, explaining the storyline, you can listen to different popular tracks from the Metal Gear Solid series. And mind you, the music in this game, in this series, is just flawless. You're really going to enjoy the music. Probably some of the best music ever composed in a video game series. So you have that to enjoy. And so, yeah, that's my huge positive for this game. It's really wild when you look at the Metal Gear storyline, specifically in Metal Gear Solid 2, and it's really relevant to what's going on in the real world today. So it's kind of scary, but it's really neat, and just thought I'd mention that. Now back to the negatives, okay? So on the Switch version particularly, this thing runs 30 FPS on all three games, and that's kind of a huge disappointment. I mean, we're running games from like 20-year-old games, and we can't even run them on 60 FPS, which is very hard to believe. We got games like Doom Eternal running on the Switch, but we can't run a game from 1998? Like, oh, come on. Like, it's a lack of effort, and it's just laziness on Konami's part. And for those huge nerds out there, you actually have a script book, so you can see the script for each Metal Gear Solid game, so that's huge. You also have bonus titles included in this game, like the NES version of Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2, and Snake's Revenge. These are games I've actually never played. I never got into them as a kid, so it'd be cool to check those out. Additionally, this collection also includes VR missions. So this includes 300 VR missions, and they're pretty much like training scenarios. And another area where Konami missed the mark is just the controls. So when you're playing specifically Metal Gear Solid 1, you can feel how outdated it is just from the controls. As back in the day, in the PlayStation 1 days, each game would have very unique controls to whatever game you're playing. But nowadays, a lot of games are standardized, and you have like the standard control scheme. Konami would have really benefited if they just updated the controls, but this is not something they did. Metal Gear Solid 3 is a little bit better because it's a newer game, so it has more of a modern control scheme. But still, it's just, I don't know why they couldn't have just updated the controls, because and not only the control scheme felt like completely outdated, just the way Metal Gear Solid 1 specifically looked. They could have fixed the edges, you know. We've seen it so many times where they bring back games from PlayStation 1 era, and if it just could have used a little bit more TLC, and the game would have looked so much better, and it probably would have had so much more sales if they just spent a little bit more time. And like I said, especially when you're playing Metal Gear Solid 1, you really feel like you're playing a PlayStation 1 game. And we've seen so many better remakes, and so we know it's possible for games from PlayStation 1 era to be enhanced, but it's just Konami just didn't take the right steps with this one. Unfortunately, the product we have right now for $79.99 is just not up to par. It's really rough to look at, and even if you, like I said, if you download an emulator, a free emulator, you can actually get your game to look better and play at 4K, right? This one's limited to 1080p. Not only myself, but a lot of people are catching on that this is just a straight cash grab from Konami, where they just want to put minimal effort to get as much revenue as possible. But really, it's really too bad, because this game probably would have sold very well if they just put a little bit more care into it. And mind you, this is probably the first time a lot of people are entering the series. You have people that have never played Metal Gear Solid before, and this was the perfect opportunity to kind of capitalize on that and really get a new player base in the Metal Gear Solid series. And it's really a shame, because this is, like I said, it's one of the best stories ever made in a game. And I would say the one other quality of life improvement they did include in this one is that you could pause on cutscenes, and this is huge. This game is actually very well known for having like 40-minute long cutscenes. This game's pretty much like a movie. Unless you're dying to play this on the Switch, to play it portably, which I wouldn't even recommend. This is the type of game you want to enjoy on a nice big screen TV. So I do recommend that you play these games, but not through this particular master collection. Get an emulator, save yourself $100, and you'll get yourself not only better frame rate, better graphics, but just a better experience overall. I think it shocks me how little effort Konami had to put into this one for it to be a great master collection, especially with those master books. Like, that's a great addition, and I commend them for that. And as consumers in the video game industry, we need to realize that our money talks. So if we continue supporting companies like Konami for their minimal effort like this, they're just going to keep producing this crap. So I would highly suggest you don't buy this. Just don't waste your money. And again, if you have no other means to play it, I would just say go ahead and proceed with the purchase. Again, this is one of the top games of all time, and in terms of storyline, and if you haven't played it, you're definitely in for a treat, and I highly recommend you check it out. But that's my review for the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. If you haven't checked out my channel, I highly recommend you do. I'm always releasing reviews on the latest games and making sure that you're making the best possible decision with your money. Other than that, yeah, please subscribe to support the channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.